Have you ever tried opening a jar of pickles and found yourself struggling with the twist? Maybe you've noticed that simple tasks, like turning doorknobs, typing on a keyboard, or even lifting a teapot, feel more challenging than they used to. It can be tempting to chalk up these difficulties to getting older. Yet there's a fascinating piece of the puzzle that many seniors overlook: their wrists. While we often hear about exercises for the back or the knees, the wrists and hands are crucial for everyday independence. If you think about it, your wrist is the gateway to almost every hand movement you make. Whether you're writing a note to your grandchild, signing a birthday card, or simply brushing your teeth. The secret I'm about to share is that keeping your wrists strong and flexible could transform how you engage in daily activities. And it's far simpler than you might imagine. Many people over 65 find that their grip weakens, or they experience stiffness in the morning that makes simple tasks a chore. In some cases, they just accept this, believing it's an unchangeable part of aging. Yet over time, this can diminish not just strength, but self-confidence. Think about how many actions in a day rely on wrist stability: holding a pen, pouring a pitcher of water, playing cards with friends, or even holding onto a shopping cart for balance. Losing confidence in your wrist strength can make you cautious, hesitant, and less inclined to participate in social activities that you once loved. The surprising truth is that there are simple, effective ways to keep your wrists strong, flexible, and ready for the tasks you care about. By focusing on a few key strategies, you can maintain your independence and reduce the likelihood of discomfort or injury. In just a moment, I'll reveal 4 essential points that challenge what many seniors have been led to believe about wrist health. We'll explore why resting your wrists might not always be the best solution, how common support devices can sometimes sabotage natural strength, how nurturing the forearm muscles directly impacts your wrists, and why your entire upper body plays a role in wrist function. By the time we've finished, you'll have a fresh perspective on an often neglected part of the body, and you'll walk away with practical tips you can start right now. Imagine feeling secure enough to reach for objects on shelves without worrying about a painful twinge, or confidently shaking a friend's hand without that nagging fear that your wrist will ache later. Before we dive in, you might wonder who I am to share these insights. Let me assure you, I've spent years helping older adults discover enjoyable, safe ways to stay active and independent. I've seen firsthand how small targeted exercises can restore a sense of freedom. While I'm not offering medical advice, your healthcare provider is always your best ally for personalized guidance. I am drawing on tried and true observations and expert recommendations from physical therapists and senior wellness specialists. So if you're ready to uncover an overlooked secret for stronger, more reliable wrists, let's get started. As you listen, think about your own daily life. Do you notice tension in your fingers when you wake up? Is there a once simple chore that you now approach with caution? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you might just discover the missing piece to reclaiming your comfort and confidence. Let's embark on this little health detective journey together. After all, the more we explore and learn, the more we can challenge outdated beliefs that might be holding us back. And don't forget to share your thoughts along the way. Maybe even jot down questions that come up, because I'll be checking in and asking you to reflect on your own experiences. Ready? Let's dive into point number 1. Most people think of wrist pain or weakness as something to be avoided by simply resting the area, especially when discomfort flares. It's a natural assumption. When something hurts, you let it be. However, too much rest can inadvertently weaken the muscles around the wrist, setting the stage for stiffness and injury. Many seniors I speak with believe that avoiding motion altogether will help them feel better in the long run. But in reality, the body is designed to move, and gentle, well-chosen activities are often part of the solution rather than the problem. Take Barbara, 72, for example. She lives in a retirement community and used to knit every evening. Over time, she developed a mild ache in her right wrist. Worried about aggravating it, she stopped knitting altogether. She also began wearing a brace every night. A few months later, she realized that even turning a doorknob or picking up a cup of tea felt uncomfortable. By focusing solely on resting, she lost not just her knitting hobby, but also a portion of her everyday hand function. The good news is that the key to better wrist strength often involves movement, but in a controlled, intentional way. Physical therapists sometimes recommend low-resistance exercises like gently squeezing a soft ball or using a light resistance band to build up the forearm and wrist muscles. Think of these exercises as a warm-up routine for your hands. By engaging the muscles around the joint, you're actually supporting the wrist stability. It's not about overdoing it with heavy weights or extreme stretching. Small, incremental challenges can make a big difference. Here's a simple practice you can start at home. Find a soft ball or even a rolled-up pair of socks. Place it in your hand and squeeze gently for a couple of seconds, then release. Repeat 5 to 10 times, pausing between each squeeze. Pay attention to how your wrist and forearm feel and adjust your grip accordingly. Never push through sharp pain. By steadily increasing your repetitions or the firmness of the ball, you'll gradually strengthen the muscles without overwhelming the joint. Emotionally, this approach can be very empowering. Barbara, for instance, felt a renewed sense of control over her own body once she learned she could tune her wrist by giving it mild, consistent exercise. It gave her a reason to stay active and re-engage with her passion for knitting in short sessions. The mental boost came from knowing she wasn't just passively waiting for pain to subside. She was actively building support around her wrist. Now, I'd love to know about your own experience. Do you ever find yourself babying your wrists, hoping that total rest will help? Give yourself a moment to reflect. Sometimes, a bit of gentle movement can be just what your body needs. If you're unsure, it never hurts to discuss the idea with a healthcare professional, especially if you have a specific condition like arthritis. The key takeaway here is that rest alone isn't the hero. Strategic motion can be a game changer. Up next, we're going to explore why some popular wrist support devices might not always offer the long-term solutions they promise. It's easy to see why so many older adults rely on splints, braces, and wraps. After all, a support device can make it easier to manage pain and perform daily tasks in the short term. But here's the twist. Too much dependency on these aids can cause your natural wrist muscles to atrophy, leading to increased weakness over time. Yet it's a misconception to think you must wear them constantly for fear of causing damage if you don't. Consider Robert, 69, who developed a habit of wearing a wrist brace after spraining his wrist during a gardening mishap. Initially, the brace alleviated his discomfort while digging in the soil and pulling weeds. But as the pain lessened, he continued wearing the brace out of habit, sometimes even while reading the newspaper or watching television. Gradually, Robert noticed that tasks that used to be effortless, like picking up his watering can, felt more straining than before. The brace had become a crutch, preventing his wrist from rebuilding its original strength and range of motion. What Robert discovered after consulting a therapist was that wrist supports have their place, especially during flare-ups or particularly demanding activities. The key is learning how and when to use them, and importantly, to wean off them once your wrist is stable enough. Imagine if you wore heavy-duty knee braces all day long. Your leg muscles wouldn't get the challenge they need to stay strong. The principle is the same with wrists. Gradual removal of the brace, combined with simple exercises, allows the muscles and ligaments to engage normally, promoting better long-term function. If you've been using a brace for a while, a practical approach could be to reduce your brace usage incrementally. Start by removing it for brief periods during the day, perhaps when you're engaged in an activity that isn't too demanding. Over time, you extend these brace-free intervals. This strategy helps your wrist acclimate to normal use again without causing sudden strain or shock. Of course, if you have a specific medical condition, always follow the guidelines set by your healthcare provider. Emotionally, letting go of something that provides immediate comfort can be daunting. We get used to the sense of security that a physical support device offers, and it's tempting to keep wearing it just in case. But by letting your wrist move more naturally, you invite a gradual restoration of strength. Robert found that once he scaled back on his brace, he regained confidence in performing day-to-day tasks. He still uses it occasionally if he feels any strain during intense gardening sessions, but he no longer relies on it day in and day out. This is a good moment to pause and reflect again. Have you ever relied on a supportive device for longer than you needed to? Or do you know someone who has? It's understandable. Who wants to feel pain if they can avoid it? But remember that your body was designed to adapt and recover when given the right conditions. Up next, we'll investigate a hidden layer that often gets overlooked in the quest for better wrist strength: the forearm muscles. It might sound surprising, but the strength in your wrist can be directly influenced by the balance of muscles in your arms. One of the biggest misunderstandings about wrist strength is the idea that the wrist and the forearm function independently. In truth, they work in tandem. When you bend your wrist, the muscles in your forearm tighten and relax in a beautifully coordinated dance. Overlooking the forearm is like focusing on a plant's leaves while ignoring its roots. If the roots are weak, the leaves will wither, no matter how much you water them. Let's look at June, 74, who experienced mild wrist pain after years of typing at her office job and continuing to work part-time from home. She assumed the solution lay solely in wrist stretches and an ergonomic keyboard. While those changes helped, the real breakthrough came when she started adding light forearm exercises to her routine. Exercises such as wrist curls with a lightweight dumbbell or even just a water bottle helped her build the support that her wrist needed. Why does this matter? When the forearm muscles are strong, they help stabilize the wrist joint. That stability means you're less likely to overcompensate with other muscles, which often leads to tension and pain. Think of it this way. If you ever tried to lift a heavy piece of luggage using only your fingertips, you'd strain your wrist. But if your entire arm, including those forearm muscles, is engaged, the load becomes more manageable. Here's a simple exercise you can try at home. Sit comfortably, rest your forearm on a table with your wrist hanging off the edge, palm facing up. Hold a small object that's easy to grip, like a soup can or lightweight dumbbell. Slowly bend your wrist upward, then gently lower it back down. Perform 8 to 12 repetitions at your own pace, rest, and switch arms. As you get stronger, you can increase the weight slightly. This routine targets both wrist flexors and forearm stabilizers, giving you more balanced strength. Emotionally, knowing that the solution can be as straightforward as adding a few daily exercises is often a relief. June found it reassuring to realize she didn't need an expensive piece of equipment or a drastic intervention. All it took was a bit of awareness and consistency. Once she noticed how much more comfortable it felt to type in open jars, her motivation soared, creating a positive feedback loop that encouraged her to stick with her routine. By now, you might be seeing a pattern. Your wrists are part of a larger system, and small adjustments can lead to noticeable improvements. Ask yourself, have you paid attention to your forearms lately? Even a few focused minutes a day can help you avoid future strain or discomfort. Next, we'll delve into a surprising connection that can amplify everything you've learned so far: how your overall upper body posture can either help or hinder your wrists. A common assumption is that wrist health is an isolated issue. After all, your wrists are far from your shoulders, right? Actually, the alignment of your shoulders, neck, and even your spine can influence how much stress ends up on your wrists. When posture is out of balance, say your shoulders are rounded forward or you routinely hunch over, your wrists may be forced to compensate in ways they're not built to handle. Over time, this can lead to chronic tightness and reduced range of motion. Consider Harold, 78, who loves to read thick, hardcover books for hours on end. He often sits curled up in his armchair, shoulders slumped, with the book resting on his lap. Over time, he noticed stiffness and pain in his wrists. Initially, he blamed it on age, but when he mentioned his reading posture to a physical therapist, it became clear that his wrist discomfort wasn't just about his wrists. Because he was constantly rounding his shoulders and craning his neck downward, extra strain traveled down his arms into his wrists. The fix for Harold involved two pieces. First, he made it a habit to prop his book on a pillow so it was closer to eye level, reducing the forward tilt of his head. Second, he incorporated light upper back stretches, focusing on opening his chest and aligning his shoulders. Even a simple seated posture check, feet flat on the floor, spine elongated, shoulders gently rolled back, went a long way. Over time, Harold's wrist pain subsided because he was no longer putting that additional mechanical stress on them. Your body is a connected chain, and each link influences the others. By improving your upper body posture, you distribute forces more evenly, allowing your wrist to move in a more natural, less strained way. A helpful trick is to set a timer, maybe on your phone, to chime every 20 to 30 minutes. Use that moment to straighten your spine, align your shoulders, and gently wiggle your wrist to encourage healthy circulation. It sounds so simple, yet it can yield impressive benefits. On an emotional level, posture work can feel a bit challenging at first, especially if you've been sitting or standing a certain way for decades. Yet it can also be profoundly empowering to realize you can make changes at any age that support your body's alignment and comfort. Harold discovered that with better posture, his entire body felt more energized, and his wrists benefited as a result. Are you beginning to see how each part of your body interconnects? It's not just about the wrists or forearms in isolation, it's about the bigger picture of alignment and movement. By now you've gathered a powerful toolkit: gentle movement instead of constant rest, strategic use of support devices, forearm strengthening, and improved posture. Let's think for a moment. Which one of these ideas resonates most with you right now? Jot it down or store it in your memory. Next, I'll wrap everything up and give you a clear picture of what adopting these strategies can do for your daily life. If there's one overarching message here, it's that your wrists are crucial players in maintaining independence, comfort, and confidence as you age. The journey to stronger wrists isn't about toughing it out or resigning yourself to pain. Instead, it's about challenging misconceptions with gentle, well-researched solutions. Over the last few minutes, we've explored how resting your wrists completely can lead to missed opportunities for building strength. We've also seen how being too reliant on support devices might inadvertently weaken your natural stability. We uncovered the importance of your forearm muscles and realized that posture, yes, posture, is often the unsung hero that ties everything together. Why the urgency to act on these insights? Because every day that passes without addressing wrist health is a day you might be missing out on the full enjoyment of tasks that once came so easily: cooking, writing, gardening, or playing with grandchildren. The wonderful news is that improvement can happen at any stage. Whether you're 65 or 85, the body adapts when given the right cues. Even small, consistent efforts can yield real benefits over time. Visualize yourself a few months down the road, confidently twisting open a stubborn jar lid, feeling comfortable during your favorite hobbies, or simply waking up without that nagging ache in your wrists. It's a future well within reach. If you're feeling inspired, pick one suggestion to begin with. Maybe it's the softball squeezes, or perhaps you'll experiment with removing your wrist brace for short intervals. For those of you who want to dive deeper, you could integrate all 4 points into a daily or weekly routine, building a comprehensive approach that strengthens not just your wrists, but also your arms and posture. And remember, there's a wide range of possibilities tailored to different ability levels. If you have a chronic condition or specific limitations, consulting a healthcare provider or physical therapist can help you customize these strategies safely. Now I'd like to extend a few calls to action. First, if you feel energized by what you've learned, try at least one of the exercises we discussed. Start with a gentle version and see how your body responds. Second, share this information with someone else who might benefit. Perhaps a friend who's been complaining about wrist discomfort, or a family member who believes they're simply too old to make a change. You could be the catalyst for their renewed confidence. Finally, if you'd like to stay updated with more tips and insights, consider joining a community, online or in person, where people share their experiences and support each other in staying strong and active as the years go by. You hold the power to shape your daily comfort and autonomy. By paying attention to your wrists and taking small but meaningful steps, you're giving yourself the gift of resilience. Don't let outdated assumptions or temporary pain solutions keep you from discovering new avenues of well-being. Instead, embrace the knowledge that your body is more adaptable than you might think. Take things at your own pace, celebrate small improvements, and trust that consistency will guide you toward the results you want. Thank you for watching and listening. Here's to thriving wrists and a thriving life, no matter your age.